Audiobook Academy. Book Summary. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. By J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone was released in 1997 by J.K. Rowling under her own imprint, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. It was her debut book, and she did an amazing job with it. The success of the novel led to the publication of other books in the series. Children were eager to find out what happened to Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger in the upcoming school year. There were enough unsolved questions to pique the reader's interest in the following installment. We first meet Harry Potter in this novel, which serves as the series' prologue. He's a young boy who's been abandoned by his family, which includes his aunt, uncle, and a mean cousin. They put him in a cabinet under the stairs to keep him from escaping. Henry was told that his parents were killed in a car accident, but he soon discovers that they were also wizards. He found out they had been murdered by Voldemort, an evil wizard of immense power. It wasn't enough for him to kill Harry. As a result, Harry has been known as the boy who fought and won. Harry is kidnapped by a giant, Hagrid, who brings him to Hogwarts, the school for wizards, and tells him about his history. Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger are two of his new friends at Hogwarts. But even as he makes new acquaintances, these two remain his closest confidants. Harry, too, finds friends and foes at school. Draco Malfoy, a young wizard from a powerful wizard family, is the protagonist of the film. Harry and Draco's fathers were adversaries, therefore Draco continues the legacy of his father's ruthless treatment of others with less authority. Professor Snape, Harry's instructor, is also a source of friction for him. Even while Henry is playing Quidditch, a broomstick soccer game, he tends to cause issues for Henry. Harry struggles to find a means to protect the Sorcerer's Stone when he discovers that Voldemort wants to use it to become immortal. In the end, Ron and Hermione face off in a fiery chess match, while Hermione works through a lethal logic puzzle. Harry must face Voldemort once more after his allies have overcome their tests. Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, is called in to help him destroy him, but it is a tight battle. Rowling's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone begins in a typical English neighborhood. The Dursleys are a typical middle-class family with a typical son named Dudley. They live in a typical house. Even though Petunia Dursley is the only child of Mrs. Dursley's parents, she does have a sister named Lily, who is a bit of an oddball and married to the dubious James Potter. Everything is great as long as the Dursleys don't have to acknowledge her. On one of his many walks home from work, Mr. Vernon Dursley spots some strange folks. He rushes past them because he is the kind of guy who doesn't care about those who are different or less well-off. No matter how many cats appear to be reading maps, or how many people talk about his sister and brother-in-law outside the bakery, it doesn't stop him from going. The Dursleys hear weird rumors about owls and shooting stars on the news that night, but they dismiss them and go to sleep. A creepy old man is making his way toward their house as the streetlights go out. Albus Dumbledore is the head of Hogwarts Wizarding School, Albus Dumbledore. As it approaches, a cat transforms into a woman. McGonagall is a professor at the same university. Lily and James Potter, Harry's parents, have been slaughtered by you-know-who, or Voldemort, as Dumbledore continues attempting to encourage people to use. When he attempted to murder Henry, something happened that reduced his strength. After that, Voldemort fled. The book's antagonist is Voldemort. As a strong but fallen wizard, he seeks ultimate power and immortality. Because of this, he has set his sights on obtaining the Sorcerer's Stone, the mythical stone that alchemists seek in order to create the immortality elixir. Wizards are afraid to even mention Voldemort's name for fear of arousing his wrath. You-know-who is the only name anyone ever calls him. They're discussing Harry Potter, the one-year-old son of James and Lily, with Dumbledore and McGonagall. McGonagall is adamant about not leaving Harry with the Dursleys after spending the day keeping an eye on them. In any case, Dumbledore is adamant that this is the best option for Harry. In the future, Harry's aunt and uncle will tell the youngster about the prophecy. It was explained to them in detail in a letter. Dumbledore places Hagrid on the doorstep of the Dursleys with the letter of explanation after the giant, Hagrid, arrives from the skies, on a motorcycle, bearing the infant. Before he leaves, Hagrid wipes his tears and mounts the motorcycle. McGonagall blows her nose and departs. With one final swirl of his cloak, Dumbledore turned out the street lamps and walked out the door. Because of his aunt's screaming each morning when she opened the door to give milk, Harry was able to sleep through this entire period of time. The night was toasting to the lad who lived all night long. Harry is no longer living the life of a hero 10 years later. This 11-year-old youngster is constantly abused by his aunt, uncle, and their vile son Dudley, all of whom live in the same house as him. He's a pampered brat who's also mean. Harry has always been the victim of Dudley's squeezing and slapping. Angry that he received one less gift than last year, Dudley is going to the zoo with Harry today because the next-door neighbor is unable to look after him. Harry gets mocked by his aunt and uncle, as well as Dudley and his friend, while visiting the zoo. Harry is startled to realize that he can communicate with the boa constrictor while he is in the snake enclosure. The glass in front of the boa's cage vanishes as Dudley approaches the enclosure in search of trouble. In spite of Harry's claims that he had nothing to do with it, he is banished to the cupboard beneath the stairs where he spends the night and is denied food. He will remain there till the summer. For school and housework, he is the only one who is allowed to go outside. Harry prefers to spend his free time outside during the warmer months. In the house, his cousin and his friends are torturing him. A letter from the cupboard under the stairs shows up one day. Seeing it, his uncle immediately takes it. A letter from Dudley's uncle instructs him to relocate into a small room next door to Dudley's that was previously occupied by his toys. The smallest bedroom, reads the second letter that arrives the next day. Infuriated by Harry's uncle, Harry's letter keeps on coming, no matter what he does to stop it. Harry receives hundreds of letters. When he's finished, he takes the family to an isolated island and locks them up, confident that the letters have been thwarted. A knock on the door is then heard at exactly 12:01 a.m. on Harry's birthday. As the giant in charge of Hogwarts keys, Hagrid attempts to open it. Takes his uncle's shotgun and knocks it when the gun goes off. When Hagrid learns that Harry's aunt and uncle have not informed him of Hogwarts and that he is a wizard, he is devastated. Hagrid hands Harry the letter of acceptance to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, despite his uncle's efforts to stop him. Hagrid then tells Harry the truth about how Harry's parents died, not in a car accident as his aunt and uncle had previously said. Hagrid abducts Harry despite his uncle's objections. At first, Harry believes it was all a dream until he realizes he is still with the giant the next morning. Hagrid takes him to London, where they go shopping for supplies for the school. Harry is concerned about costs, but Hagrid tells him that his parents left him with plenty of money. In the Leaky Cauldron pub, they go till they come to an impenetrable brick wall. Diagon Alley is revealed when Hagrid taps on it. Odd shops surround the street, and it's a hive of activity. There is a vault full of gold and silver in Gringotts Bank, which is run by goblins. In the meanwhile, Hagrid helps him remove enough for his purposes, and then Hagrid makes a detour at vault number 713 to pick up a grubby small parcel, stuff it in his pocket, and urges Harry not to question about it. Harry encounters a snobbish lad his own age while getting his school uniform tailored. Harry seems increasingly unprepared for life as a wizard as the boy talks about Hogwarts and Quidditch, a form of soccer played with 4 balls and on broomsticks in the air. When he's ready, Hagrid takes him to the wand-fitting room. The one that works for Harry is made of holly and decorated with a phoenix feather after several tries. Only Voldemort's wand has a phoenix feather on it, according to the shop owner. It is the wand that left Harry with a lightning bolt-shaped scar on his forehead. Once again, it's time to get ready to head back to school. On Harry's train ticket, the departure time is listed as 9:34. He overhears a family discussing Hogwarts, which gives him a clue as to where to look. To get across the barrier between tracks 9 to 10, Harry seeks his mother for help. 3 of the family's children, all of whom have red hair, will be attending Hogwarts next year. Our old friends Fred and George Weasley are back, and Ron Weasley is making his debut in the same way as Harry Potter did. They become good friends as Ron explains the wizarding world to Harry, who uses some of his newfound money to buy sweets for the train journey. As Harry gets to know more of the students, he becomes a little self-conscious about his notoriety. The overachieving girl Harry and Ron meet is Hermione Granger, and Harry sees the disagreeable kid from the uniform shop, Draco Malfoy, as they walk around the school grounds. To get to Hogwarts School, the first-year students are taken by boat across a large black lake by Hagrid, the school's caretaker. Professor McGonagall greets them at the door and leads them into the Great Hall. Along the journey, she explains them about the houses they will be divided into, and how the houses gain and lose points via the Quidditch games. As each student is called forward, they are given a pointed headgear to wear that identifies their house. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin are the 4 houses of the wizarding world. Harry is introduced to some of the school's spirits. During the sorting ritual, Hermione is summoned and the hat directs her to Gryffindor. Harry is then summoned after a few more rounds have been completed. The entire room is filled with hushed whispers of admiration for him. Harry knows that Slytherin is the house Draco is going into and the house Voldemort was in, so as the hat is put on his head, he keeps thinking, not Slytherin. Slytherin is the hat's preferred choice, but Harry insists on Gryffindor, and the hat agrees. Harry is overjoyed when the hat places him in the same house as Ron. After the sorting process is through, everyone settles in for a lavish meal. The teachers are all seated at the head table, and Harry peeks over their shoulders to see what they're doing. Professor Snape, the school's head of magic, is staring him down with a dagger. I can feel the sting of his scar. The headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, makes a welcome speech after dessert. Forbidden Forest and the right side third floor hallway are two places he cautions them against going. They all sing the school hymn, and then head to their new homes. Harry adjusts to life at Hogwarts, where the stairwells move, the paintings speak, and the ghosts wander the corridors, engaging the pupils in conversation. However, he quickly understands that Professor Snape dislikes him. Harry is invited to Hagrid's for tea one day. Harry includes Ron in his plans. When Hagrid's dog appears for tea, the boys are shocked, but they soon learn that he is really kind. Hagrid assures Harry that Snape has no reason to despise him, therefore he doesn't have to worry about him. On the day of Harry's birthday, he reads in the newspaper an item about a bank robbery. Harry suspects Hagrid of being behind the crime. Learning to fly will be shared with the House of Slytherins, and Harry is not happy about it. Draco's demeanor takes a turn for the worse whenever Neville is taken to the infirmary by the instructor because of an injury. He steals Neville's ball and runs off with it. When Draco throws Harry's broom into the air, Harry does some amazing flying stunts and grabs it. Harry is convinced he is in danger when she draws him away, but she actually wants him to join the Gryffindor house Quidditch team instead. That night, over dinner, Harry tells Ron what she told him, despite her wishes for him to keep it a secret for the time being. Harry is approached by Draco and his henchmen. A wizard's duel is on the table between Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter after they exchange some nasty remarks. Harry agrees, despite Hermione's protests. It's that night that Hermione gets locked in the wrong room when Harry and Ron go to meet with Draco. She'll have to bring Neville along now. Draco is unable to be found when they arrive at the agreed-upon meeting location. As a replacement, the school caretaker and his cat Argus Filch and his pet appear. As a result, the children flee. Unfortunately, they become lost and wind up on the prohibited third floor, where a three-headed dog scares them away. After the youngsters have returned safely to their dorm, Harry hears Hermione mention something about the trapdoor the dog was sitting on during another lecture about correct things to do. He's intrigued now. Harry begins his training as a Quidditch player with the purchase of a new broomstick. In the meantime, Hermione, who is particularly good at flying objects, overhears Ron making a harsh remark and breaks down in tears as she walks out of class. During the Halloween meal, she is absent, and Harry is alarmed. People are especially frightened if they hear that there is a troll loose at school. He and Ron set off to find Hermione, realizing that she cannot know about the troll. They find the troll first, then Hermione. When they learn Hermione is in the girls' bathroom, they laugh at their cleverness. The three of them successfully release Hermione and capture the troll by combining their magical abilities and working together as a team. Professor McGonagall, on the other hand, intercepts them before they can return to their lodgings. At this point in the conversation, Hermione speaks up and explains that she was the one who left their rooms to catch the troll, and the guys tried to stop her. As a result of this, she becomes a part of their family. Henry's broom starts malfunctioning while he's trying to catch the golden snitch during Harry's first game of Quidditch versus the Slytherin house. This is a catch-and-release type of game. When Hermione observes Professor Snape staring at Harry with his mouth open and murmuring something, she sets his robe on fire to put an end to the situation. As soon as Harry gets back in control of his broomstick, the golden snitch is snatched by him and Gryffindor wins the game. Hermione explains that Snape was in control of Harry's broom while they were having tea at Hagrid's shack. Even when Harry tells Hagrid that he believes Snape was injured by the three-headed dog, the students learn that Fluffy, Hagrid's dog, is adamant in his refusal to accept Harry's explanation. The only two people who know what Fluffy is guarding are Dumbledore and a guy by the name of Nicholas Flamel. Harry had to stay at school throughout Christmas vacation. Henry, despite Draco's jibes, is secretly pleased. The holidays spent with the Dursleys were never particularly joyous. Dudley was the only one with any items. Henry, on the other hand, is overjoyed that Ron will be joining him for the remainder of the year. This is the first time he can recall ever receiving gifts on Christmas morning. Ron has a sweater knitted by his mother. In addition, he obtained an invisibility that had belonged to his father from a mysterious donor. After a sumptuous Christmas dinner, he dons his cloak and heads to the library to peruse the books that the librarian had previously turned him away from. However, one of the books begins screaming as soon as he opens it, so he had to flee away. Harry discovers a full-length beautiful mirror in another room. Whenever he looks at himself in the mirror, he sees a multitude of people instead. When he first looks around, he sees nothing, but when he turns around again, he recognizes his parents and other family members. When he approaches them, he is met with only a wave. He tells Ron everything about the mirror the following morning over breakfast. He and Ron hide behind the cloak and return to the mirror that night. When it comes to Quidditch, though, Ron sees himself as the champion rather than his family. They scurry back to their room after nearly being caught. Harry returns the following night, despite Ron's warnings. Dumbledore discovers him. Dumbledore doesn't get upset, as Harry had expected. Instead, he tells Harry that the mirror is addicting because it displays you your greatest desire. Hermione has returned from her holiday break. Nicholas Flamel's identity is ultimately revealed to the gang. In addition to being Dumbledore's right-hand man, he is the only wizard to have created a Sorcerer's Stone. To manufacture an elixir of immortality, the stone is claimed to transform lead into gold. They believe the three-headed dog is there to guard them from this. Within 5 minutes of the next Quidditch match, Harry Potter has caught the golden snitch, giving Gryffindor House the victory. Harry then follows Snape into the woods, where he meets with Professor Quirrell and discusses the Sorcerer's Stone with him. Aside from being concerned about the unfolding story, the students are also fretting over upcoming assignments and tests. Hagrid invites them to view a dragon's egg he won in a poker game around Easter. Because it is forbidden for him to nurture them, the children arrange for Ron's older brother, who is an expert on dragons, to take care of the hatchling once it has been found. They neglect to put on the invisibility cloak and are detected as they return to their apartments after the victory lap. All three houses lose 50 points as a result of the punishment. Also, Neville and Draco had to serve time in detention for their part in the scheme. Their incarceration is spent in the Forbidden Forest helping Hagrid. Unicorns have been dying because of a mysterious force in the woods. To keep going until he can find the Sorcerer's Stone, Voldemort had been sipping unicorn blood. The youngsters rushed to warn Dumbledore after discovering from Hagrid that he'd had too much to drink and having divulged to Voldemort that music was the only way to get beyond Fluffy. Yet after he is gone, they take the stone and store it away for safekeeping. It turns out that someone else has already arrived before them. They make it past Fluffy, but then they fall into a plant that tries to hold them. Magic is used by Hermione to free them. Birds disguised as keys fill the next room. In order to capture the appropriate bird key, Harry uses his Quidditch skills. After that, Ron plays chess using himself as a piece, and it's a ferocious game. If he wants to win, he has to be captured and defeated by the Queen. Potions and a logic puzzle are the next challenges. Hermione decides on a potion to ingest and then returns to Ron, who is awaiting her. In anticipation of finding Snape, Harry drinks from one of the bottles and enters the Inferno. Instead, he comes across Quirrell. Quirrell has Voldemort's face on the back of his head, Harry discovers. As Harry approaches the mirror, Voldemort instructs Quirrell to use him. To put it another way, when Harry opens it, the stone mysteriously appears inside of him. With Harry's help, Voldemort hopes to obtain the stone. In response, Voldemort instructs Quirrell to capture him. Nevertheless, he is unable to touch Harry without getting burned. Quirrell's scar is very painful when Harry tries to grab him. Harry finally falls asleep. Dumbledore is there to greet him when he regains consciousness. Harry tries to explain to him that Quirrell stole the stone from him. He is unsuccessful. Harry comes to the realization that he is in the school's medical ward. According to Dumbledore, Quirrell could not harm Harry because he was shielded by his mother's love, and that's why he arrived just in time to save him. The Sorcerer's Stone was solely sought after by Harry Potter since he was the only one who cared about the stone's intrinsic value rather than its potential uses. That he and Nicholas Flamel had resolved to destroy the stone is also mentioned. With his invisibility cloak, he departs. At the end of year party, Harry and his buddies get to know one another better. In spite of his disappointment, Dumbledore appears on stage and cheers him on. Points are given out more liberally by him. Hermione receives 50 points for her reasoning in the face of danger, while Ron receives 50 points for his best ever chess game. That's when Harry and Neville were given an additional 10 points for their bravery in standing up to their friends. Gryffindor's colors were mysteriously incorporated into the decor. When the final grades are announced, Harry and Ron are declared winners, although Hermione comes out on top. The children are ferried back across the lake after being warned not to use magic during the summer break. Then it's back to London by train for them. Returning through the portal, they are reunited with their loved ones. In the words of Ginny, Ron's younger sister, Harry stands out. Mrs. Weasley sent Harry Christmas gifts, and Ron promises to get in touch with him over the summer to invite him to the Weasleys for a visit. Hermione looks at the Dursleys suspiciously as she wishes Harry a happy summer. In the end, Harry just laughs and says it'll be alright because the Dudley doesn't know he can't use magic over the summer. Harry Potter, the protagonist of this story. This year, Harry is 11. Since his parents were murdered by the wicked wizard Voldemort, Harry Potter has been living with his aunt, uncle, and unpleasant cousin. Harry's family does not like him at all. He's hidden in a cabinet under the stairs by his captors. He has low self-esteem due to the verbal abuse he suffers on a regular basis. As a result, he displays little guts at the outset of the novel. Readers will see him mature and become a heroic figure who saves humanity. To accomplish so, Voldemort must be defeated. By denying the wicked wizard the Sorcerer's Stone, he ends up defeating him in this novel. Additionally, he has an inherent ability to fly, which allows him to excel at the sport of Quidditch, which is akin to soccer but played in the air on a flying broomstick. This makes him an excellent Quidditch player. Harry's adventurous nature is another startling development. Because of his great feeling of duty, he often enters potentially risky situations virtually without hesitation. Ron Weasley. Ron comes from a loving and caring family. There are 5 of them, 3 boys and a girl, all of whom have red hair and are social butterflies. Although Ron's family isn't wealthy, they make up for it with their abundance of unconditional affection. His 2 older brothers, one of whom is a graduate and the other of which is a dragon trainer, are identical twins. They're usually in trouble, and they're particularly naughty. In addition, he has a younger sister, who becomes more prominent in later books. His loyalty and bravery are undeniable, yet he's not the same level of naughtiness as his brothers, Harry and Ginny. He's simply a normal kid, but he's also a wizard. He's a great source of light-hearted humor in some of the most stressful situations. Hermione Granger. Hermione is that annoyingly perfect student who always raises her hand and knows the answer. However, as her story unfolds, she develops a close bond with Ron and Harry. She's often the group's sanity check and a source of inspiration. The fact that she hails from a magical family makes her a unique magician. Because she is not descended from a wizarding family, she is an outsider in a way that even Harry is not. With no pre-existing fan base and no connection to a renowned wizard family, she must learn everything from the ground up, just like Harry. Hermione believes that in order to be accepted, she needs put forth more effort than everybody else. She has a strong sense of self-worth, and she is fiercely loyal to the people she loves. Voldemort, the ultimate evil villain. In my opinion, he has no redeeming characteristics. A wizard with incredible abilities on the prowl for even greater ones. In the end, he wants to rule the globe. To put an end to their attempts to stop Harry, his parents were assassinated by the boy. A lightning bolt scar remains on his forehead as a memento of his failed attempt to kill Harry at the time. Voldemort's attempt on Harry's life was thwarted in part by the death of Voldemort's mother, who had cast a protective charm on Harry. Joanne Rowling was a divorced mother living in Gloucestershire, England, when she had the idea for a book about a young wizard boy who is alone and tries to overcome obstacles to become the hero of his story. She was born on July 31, 1965, to Peter James Rowling, an aircraft engineer at Rolls-Royce, and Anne Rowling, née Volant. When she went out with her kid every day, she'd stop at a coffee shop so he could nap in the stroller. She worked on her story while sipping on a single cup of coffee. Romantic stories she'd heard as a child inspired several of her stories. On a train from King's Cross Station to Arbroath in 1964, she tells the story of how her parents met. Her grandparents' tales of bravery in the face of adversity inspired her. Probably Albus Dumbledore, the Hogwarts headmaster, was inspired by her headmaster at St. Michael's in the village of Winterbourne. Hermione Granger is a lot like her when she was 11 years old. Steve Eddy, her high school English instructor, remarked that she didn't stand out, despite the fact that she was exceptionally clever. She should have been able to find a meaningful and supportive employment with a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Edinburgh and a Master of Arts degree from the University of Exeter. But, like so many others with college degrees, she discovered that finding a job that would allow her to support her family and pay for childcare is extremely difficult, if not impossible. Her inspiration for the Harry Potter books came to her while she was doing research for Amnesty International. She had lost her mother, her work, and her spouse in the span of 7 years. Around this period, Rowling also had her first kid. She was now divorced, alone, and living in a state of near poverty. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was J.K. Rowling's debut novel, released in 1997. One of the world's most popular books was born out of the book. Since then, she's written 6 more books in the series, as well as a few short tales. Her works have inspired a new generation of children to fall in love with reading. A more masculine-sounding name was requested by her publisher because young males would not want to read a book written by a woman. Her publisher, Kathleen Ada Bolden Rowling, her paternal grandmother, gave her the K as a middle name because she did not have a middle name. However, she refers to herself as Jo. Robert Galbraith is a pseudonym name she uses when writing. J.K. Rowling has risen to the position of best-selling novelist in the United Kingdom following the enormous success of the Harry Potter series. In 2007, Forbes listed her as the 408th most influential celebrity. As one of the world's wealthiest women, she is among the top 12. British magazine editors picked her as one of the country's most powerful women in 2010. Despite her celebrity, J.K. Rowling maintains her charitable work. One-parent families, comic relief and the MS Society of Great Britain are among the causes she advocates for. For her social, moral, and political influence, she was selected runner-up by Time magazine in 2007. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.